This is Andi Purewal for ID Boxing. I'm joined by Joe McNally here in Liverpool at the Rotunda. Joe, always a pleasure. I appreciate you letting me come up today. Good to see you. A busy gym. Everybody with dates now to look forward to. But firstly, how are you? How is life?
I'm good, mate. Good. Fine, thanks, and how are you?
I'm all good. Yeah, I don't really know where to start because there's so many fighters with dates on the horizon. I'm going to get straight into the one which had Liam Beefy Smith confirmed to me earlier. The Smith-Eubank Jr fight will now take place for rematch. That is nothing official in terms of a date. He said he's looking at June time back in Manchester. But yeah, any surprise at all on your behalf, Joe, that the rematch is finally taking place?
I'm glad it's going to take place, and as Liam stated to yourself earlier on, I think it'll niggle Chris too much not to have the rematch. I did think at one point, which is it, I think the backlash off Benn and the rigmarole of him testing positive for clomiphene, that I think Chris did want that fight, and for some reason it hasn't materialised or negotiations never went on. I had the feeling he wanted the Benn fight, then he'd come back and fight Liam Smith in a rematch instead of this rematch with Liam. Not confident he wins that. Not confident Chris wins that, and where does he go? Is the Conor fight still there then if he's lost 2 on the bounce to Liam? So I thought that was his consensus, is fight Conor, which is let's not beat round the bush, it's an easier fight for him with proper testing involved. It's a genuine 168, massive 160 via 147 fighter, and he was going to get that win and then come to Liam. But Liam's confirmed he's back in the gym. He's working away, he's training. So when the date does get finalised, he'll be ready.
Joe, speaking to him earlier, there seemed to be a slight, somewhat sense of kind of frustration over the contractual state of things. So obviously Junior had enacted and invoked the rematch clause right close to the deadline, but then talks never progressed from there because there was you're not in, Josh, thankfully. I don't think many people want to see that one. For those who don't know, Josh, yeah, as Josh said, he's in some compromising positions as he warms down. But yeah, speaking to Liam, somewhat sense of contractually, it seemed to be that once Junior had invoked the rematch clause, there were still talks ongoing on his behalf around the kind of Benn fight, meaning that Liam was left somewhat in the wilderness because the contract stated he had to get back into camp prepared for a Junior rematch, even though he never fully knew if it would go ahead or not. Was that the same kind of vibe that you got from Liam in the entire process of this up until this point?
Yeah, and it's, for me, my main objective is to keep the fighter in the gym, which is Liam Smith, to keep him in the gym, to keep him in some sort of condition where, it's not an uphill struggle when he's starting camp. I try to keep out of I've stated before, out of the manager, the contractual stuff and shit. I'm not really interested in that, I like to do, stick to the boxing and thing, but at the same time, the fighters confide in me enough to know what's going on. I think it was all a consensus, the rematch clause getting signed and whatnot. I think Chris's managers and promoters, the Wasserman, I don't think they really, which I've just noted on before, it doesn't make business sense to lose against Liam Smith again and then it's like you're done. But they're so confident in the Conor Benn fight, it's like we go and beat Conor, then we are going to fight Liam. If he loses against Liam again, it's like should we move up to 168, should we do? But I think Chris wanted the fight. He's a born fighter, and I think I think Chris would really want the rematch, and I think it possibly could have been both sides, well, the Wassermans and Chris in negotiates like, look, what should we do? What's the next move? But at the end of the day, Conor Benn is another massive name, and it was a lot more money, I'm led to believe, for the fight with Chris. So it would have made sense for him, of a business point of view, to go and fight Conor and then come back to Liam also. But I think the rematch clause, it went past. I'm not 100% certain.
Liam did say to me that the rematch clause it gone by quite some distance. He never told me an exact date, but yeah.
Exactly, yeah. Well, I'm led to believe that it went past the deadline So it weren't actual, it was void. So, but he did state that, look, we do want the fight, this, and the only way you're not signing it is to, so forget all social media rigmarole and shite like that. He never signed the rematch clause in time, but they stated that they did want the rematch, and hopefully the two of them get it on again. It's another fantastic fight for Liam, hard one, a bleat at that. But the right amount of time. My thing is, they tried to hit Liam with it and myself the first time. They only wanted to give Liam 5 weeks preparation to fight Chris the first time. And we knocked it back. I said, no, not a chance, because I was super confident in him coming out victorious. And, I just hope that isn't the case now. It's like, we've only got this date and that date. Give the two of them the proper preparation again, I think, because it'll be another barnstorm and it'll be a good fight again, and one I'm happy for Liam to progress out with before he goes into the last 12 months of his career, definitely.
Is that kind of a cut-off that you and Liam have spoken about, that beyond junior he's maybe got, say, 12 to 18 months left in him before he might have to start considering hanging them up?
Yeah, well, it's I see a lot of people saying, Liam's gotten better and better and better. He's not taking no punishment in the gym. He's living a lot better now than what he was a lot of years ago, older and wiser, so to say. And I'd like Liam to have the rematch and then maybe one more. That I don't want him to. If he, the truth of it is, if he chose to retire now, I'd be happy, man. I'm not in the business of boxing to be a rich man. I want to be successful, a successful coach with fighters that are successful and retire financially secure for themselves, and being happy is the main thing. And if Liam chose to retire now, I'd be a happy coach. I'm not really, bothered if he win it. If he goes ahead with the rematch, a fight to fight to me. If he carries on for another one after that, but in hindsight, like Liam, he's had a long career. To have the rematch, he comes out victorious. Just decide what he's going to do. But it is so hard to retire at the top of the sport, and it's like there's always that one. But I think that is the best time to retire. Yeah, retire at the top and get out with your marbles intact, and you can live life then.
It's such a lot. I'm not a fighter, obviously, so it's easy for me to say, but it seems to be an extremely difficult decision. The name who retired at the top, who comes to mind the most recently, is Andre Ward. He retired when he was at the top, as we've just said. If, say, Liam comes through junior again, I'm sure there'll be other big money fights out there. He's mentioned Cal Brook, he mentioned Billy Joe Saunders to me. Obviously, once Golovkin, that would be a big money fight. It's a lot easier said than done, I would imagine, to try and even have that conversation with him.
Yeah, exactly them names that are getting bandied about there. Coming off the fantastic win off Chris, I hear rumours about Billy Joe getting spoke about. Another fantastic fight. I think the weight would be an issue. I think Billy's a big boy, and 168 I think it'd be his preferred weight, and that's just not even negotiable for Liam Smith. I don't think moving up to 168. You've got the Kell Brook fight. I think that'll be another. They've got a bit of history in sparring. Going off what Liam's told me, they have fantastic rounds when he was fighting Canelo Alvarez, I think it was. I think they were meant to, what I'm led to believe off Liam, it was a fantastic work. So I know that'll make a fantastic fight. That'll be a brilliant fight for Liam. Even next, if the Chris one didn't materialise, that'll be a good fight for Liam also, Kell Brook. And then, obviously, I don't really want to mention his name, Connor, because of the situation he's in. But yeah, the Golovkin one, that's there. I don't. He's just relinquished his IBF.
Both of his titles now.
Both of his titles. So he's titleless. So I think Junaidi be looking for the another big money one. I don't know why, because he's made plenty, hasn't he?
You don't want to mention his name, the Connor one. Beefy's the same. Beefy said that he doesn't want to mention it simply because he knows that in his mind those guys have never mentioned him, because they know what would happen if they fought. That the team knows that if Connor was to fight Liam Smith, that Liam Smith would come out on top. Do you think we might see that fight at any point there?
What I will say is, in this sport of boxing, and the business side of boxing more so, never say never. Never say never, because it's not a sport that runs in straight lines, is it? It's an all what you go, and through through the controversy that Connor's gone through, he hasn't proven himself not guilty yet, but look at Canelo Alvarez, he tested positive for Glenbuterol. No one's really asked now, are they? Oh yeah, it was the meat in my diet, and no one's really bothered. Would you think you'd see him against your Caleb Plants after that, your Golovkin rematches and your Bivol and so on, and it's not dying down. So I just think, all this testing, it's a bit of a shame on the sport of boxing that people can get found out cheating, and then sort of it gets brushed under the carpet and you're still in the mix to make plenty, when there's a lot of fighters, putting the work in without cheating and not getting the opportunities. So that's why I don't really want to talk about it. But look, it is what it is. It could happen. Potentially, yes, it could do. Only in the sport of boxing.
That end sentence there certainly sums up boxing at the minute. Just to kind of come back to the Smith-Eubank Jr. 2 fight as a final question before we move on. We know Agyarko Jr. is a very proud man. I imagine that defeat to Liam would have hurt him. Going back over it, psychologically, is that going to be something which might be difficult for him to come over? I said this question to Liam earlier. People have questioned why Lee would go straight back in for the Mauricio Lara rematch, because he took a heavy KO defeat there, or stoppage defeat with Vital coming in. Same could be said there for Eubank Jr. It was a tough knockdown to come back from, and he didn't really know where he was when everybody had to jump in and stop him from going back to Liam. Do you think there will be questions there in his own mind when he steps back between the ropes with Liam?
I think them questions will be answered in the gym, and I think the first thing that obviously he prided himself on, he's never been knocked down, never mind knocked out and stopped. I think he'll go back to the gym, he'll probably have his own little questions, let his hands drop a little bit low once in a while, test his chin himself, maybe spar in a bit smaller gloves. I don't know, that's down to him and his coach. I think him being a student of the sport, I think he'll study the short amount of time he had to share the ring with Liam and where he went wrong. Obviously, we know where he went wrong and what Liam done right, because it was all pre-orchestrated in the gym. But, I think also on a mentally side, the first 4 rounds went a lot better than I anticipated, because a lot of people like Chris, some had to shut out this. I had Liam taking the first round. Chris was throwing nothing but, shooting the jabs from the hip and find the range of it, and the odd pot shot that was catching Liam's glove. Thought the second round was Liam's also, a bleat a little bit closer. Now, the third round was interesting also, because it was playing out the same as the other two. But at the end of the round, Liam just switched off completely and he ate. I thought on the night he ate 2 or 3, maybe 4 clean uppercuts. But when I've studied the fight over and over again, only really one got through. He got caught with a couple, 2 uppercuts, but one of them really caught him flush. That got his attention. I believe when he come back the corner, it was like, stick to what we're doing, fucking stop being a ballsy cunt and trying to just turn it into a slugfest straight on. But Liam's tasted Chris's full power. Liam Smith hasn't got no fear of you, and he will show the respect as a fighter, which he always does. He wouldn't be at where he is in the sport if he didn't. But Liam Smith now knows how hard Chris hits. He knows how fast he is. He knows how long-limbed he is. He knows things. So I think the rematch will just play into Liam Smith's mental aspect as side of the game more than Chris's, definitely.
Moving on from Liam and on to Josh Taylor, who was, as he said, in some compromising positions behind you there, Joe, earlier on. Teofimo Lopez, June 10th, official, New York. Might have a few issues for yourself if Liam ends up fighting in June as well and trying to juggle that one. But yeah, finally happy, excited to get this one over the line and get Josh ready for Teofimo Lopez.
Oh yeah, it's a fight that him himself, Josh, it's a superstar international fight, really. It's the former undisputed lightweight champion of the world against the undisputed light welterweight 140 champion of the world.
Josh won't agree with you saying that.
Yeah, saying which?
He doesn't agree Teofimo was ever undisputed.
Unified.
Unified because he held the WBC franchise title, which pulled up a lot of questions.
Okay, so he's the unified, but look, it's a fantastic, and as you know, very well known in the States and in Europe. It's a worldwide fight, and obviously he's been out the ring a while now, Josh, but we'll be knocking, you know, a few hundred rounds up in sparring for him to shed that rust and get under there. But what a fight, I'm excited for it. I think stylistically it makes for a really hard, tough, and it'll be a barnstormer. I think it'll be a really good fight, that one he's getting his teeth into, and I really love that fight for Josh. Yeah, I think he comes out victorious, and Teofimo will make Josh shine, definitely.
We saw Josh flew out to the States this past weekend for the Shakur Stevenson fight, wherever the bout with Teofimo was announced. That was in Newark. Teofimo Lopez is from New York, it's not too far away. But however, Teofimo wasn't there, and they had a cross-satellite feed from a different part of the country. What do you make of that, Joe? Do you think that's Teofimo maybe not wanting to engage with Josh in person, or did Teofimo had other plans? Or what do you make of that?
Yeah, do you know what, Hans? I think it was totally fucking bang out of order. You know, I adjusted Josh's... See you later, Phil. Take care, mate. I adjusted Josh's whole training schedule the week before he flew out last week, and over the weekend to adjust him to go over there. And adjusted his whole training schedule that, you know, it never affected the other fighters because the other coach who I work with, Declan, but he didn't have to do that. And then he goes over there, all the way to New York on an indirect flight, and the motherfucker just doesn't turn up and goes the UFC. What bullshit. And I don't think it's not wanting to be head-to-head with Josh or I just think him just being an arsehole. And I'm like, you know, it's totally out of order, you know. Could have just turned up and done the head-to-head bum sit. You can have a coffee with the fighter, do what you want, but to just dismiss someone who's flying across the pond 7 hours and go down the UFC, it's a piss take, really, isn't it?
With the fight itself, obviously it's a very different style to the one of Jack Catterall that he was preparing Josh for. What do you expect to see from Teofimo in this fight? We most recently saw him against Sandor Martin, who's also a southpaw, and left many people with more questions about what Teofimo has to offer at 140.
Yeah, you know, I'm preparing for the Teofimo that, you know, was lighting up everybody prior to Lomachenko, and then obviously he had the fantastic victory against Lomachenko. I've heard stories about his mental aspect, something's going on this, but I'm not looking too much into it, and whether he's... Go ahead, I'll phone you. So you'll have to go out. I'll phone you in a minute. You know, I'm not looking into the aspect of them saying he's not mentally there. Look, a few fighters. Josh had a blip in his last fight. You know, he's had a couple of... I thought the Kambosos fight, a lot of people give him not enough, but Kambosos is a fantastic fighter himself. And he had a good fight, good war with Kambosos, and then Sandor Martin. I think Sandor Martin is very hard to look good against. A bit like Jack Catterall, really. A bit on the negative side, not much of a puncher, but you know, we'll be preparing for the kid that fought Lomachenko, which is the only way we can do. Yeah, prepare for everything that he brings to the table, take it away from and implement what we're going to bring.
Moving away from Josh, Joe, and on to JJ Metcalf and Kevin Agyarko, both men sharing the May 20th Taylor Cameron undercard together. Firstly, just with Kevin, surprised to get him back so soon. I remember interviewing him on the Pacheco Cullen fight week, and everyone was quite dismissive of his chances on making that card. Yeah,
well, a little bit of a shock, but obviously it's been done professionally, and we haven't just gone, are you ready? There's a big bill here. He got the operation in Manchester with Mike Hayton, one of the best hand specialists in the world. So he went and had another scan with Mike, and he followed his full rehabilitation programme, strengthening his thumb, his tendon back up, and he gave him the all clear to fight. We weighed the options up of fighting, so this is at 160. So he's moving up a full weight category, you know, from 154 to 160, and we wouldn't be able to do. We only had 7 weeks, 8 weeks to prepare. He put on quite a little bit of muscle, Kevin, so 160 is actually suits us fine. It's perfect. He's got a good fight in a live opponent in Grant Dennis. He's come off the back of a victory, but it's a good fight for Kevin to come back to, and one he will be prepared for, and to put him back in the mix at the 154 division, and hopefully mid-summer, the end of summer, he'll be ready then to step up against a good name. And James, well, James is it's his golden ticket, this one, isn't it? He's 34 years old. He was retired from the sport, so to say, come back, a good win against Agyarko, should have been European champion. Now he's come off another fantastic win against Courtney Pennington, and he's walked into the IBO with Dennis. Difficult fight also, but I think stylistically wise, one James relishes. I relish myself, and he called for it. He's got it. Now he's got to deliver.
Just away from your fighters, Joe, always there's a couple of topics just to get your thoughts on. Amir Khan's obviously been in the headlines over the last couple of weeks because of a failed UKAD test on the back of his defeat to Cal Brook last year. I just wanted to get what your thoughts were around that topic when the news broke.
Yeah, my main thoughts on it. I forgot was the PED that he tested positive. Osterine. I don't really know much about it. I think always I like to listen to Dominic Ingle on avenues like this. He's very, very educated, and concerning the Conor Benn schedule, I listen to a lot of Dom's interviews on it. Very intelligent man, and he does know the ins and outs of the sport, of boxing obviously, but concerning performance enhancing drugs, he does know a lot, and I'd like to hear Dom's thoughts on it, but I don't know too much about it. But my main concern is it was UKAD again. That's the biggest factor. Let's look at what's the programme on Netflix. What's the cycle? Lance Armstrong. What's the programme called again? So he literally would have never got caught until he come clean himself. But what it seems to me is all these people are cheating, and UKAD, they can't do shit about it. So it's like, what the fuck are UKAD doing? They're coming out, they're doing it. So forget they're affiliated with the board. If VADA were affiliated with the board, this cheating would be stopping. But for some reason, their testing protocols are dog shit, aren't they? Because everyone just seems to be testing positive for PEDs. Negative for PEDs. Passing, and then it's sort of getting released later. It's a bit of a shambles, isn't it? But I seriously think UKAD, the board, and some major and governing body really needs to sit down and get a hold of this, this fucking cheating that's going on in the sport. It's absolutely disgusting.
Joe, obviously I could tell with yourself and with Liam, it's obviously a very topic which is very close to you guys, something which you're very open to speaking about. So I don't want to kind of drag it out too long, because I know Josh can be waiting in a second to jump in as well. But yeah, just a couple more to get your thoughts on. Anthony Joshua comes back, defeats Jermaine Franklin. Some people questioning the level of his performance, and now he's announced he's not going to return until December. Your thoughts on his performance and his decision to hold out until December now to return?
Yeah, okay. I thought, Joshua, I don't know, something was off on the night. I don't think he should wait till December to fight again. He's with Derek James, he's with a fantastic coach. But look, you can be the best coach since sliced bread. You can be the bang average coach who doesn't really respect the sport. You can be this. Has he got a fantastic relationship with Derek James? Is it working in the corner? Is he the communication there? You really need that. It's a bit similar to, I know like he hasn't fought for a while, Josh Taylor, but by the time this fight comes, it feels like I've known him all his life, and the amount of rounds we've been through, and it's really a pleasure. And come fight night, the relationships, it's structured, it's standard, the reactions, how he acts, how I react, the communication, you really need that. I'm not saying he has or he hasn't got that, Derek, but I think you know, if he waits till December, it'd be a bonus. The other flip side of the coin is all the heavyweights are sort of be fighting each other. Is he going to miss the boat and this, that? So I don't really know if it's a good thing or a bad thing, really, if that makes sense. The longer he goes, he'll get more bonds with the coach. The longer he goes, will he miss the boat with opponents and opportunities? I don't know. Regarding his performance, and I thought he was a bit negative, the truth of it. I think for a man of his size and structure and, you know, power, his ability, I thought he was I know Jermaine Franklin. I was getting Jermaine Franklin over here to spar David Price when he was due to fight David Allen, and we spoke to him at the time, and he committed and then he didn't commit. But I studied him a right few years ago now for sparring, because without being disrespectful to Dave Allen, I chose him for the sparring because he was durable, could go round after round, but he weren't the biggest puncher. And, you know, at that weight, anyone can be hit, but Joshua's physicality, his power, his speed, his technique, I just thought he could have, you know, been a little bit more aggressive for me. You know, establish his jab a little bit better, not just flicking it out there, really bullying him with the jab, bang, you know, keeping him on the end of it, getting him on the end of the shots, and really done a number on Jermaine, going through the gears a little bit more confidence in his own tank, his own fitness, because it's obvious he puts the work in. But that's my thoughts on the fight. I thought, you know, he's done a lot of good things, but it was one of them performances where you just expected that little bit more out of the man. It's like, come on, Josh, you know, I would have, if you're coaching a man, that's what I would have really pushed for. Let's get this fucker out of here.
Did you see someone who was worried about what was coming back at him? Because that's been another talking point.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah and no. Yeah, was he playing the safety car first? Is he worrying? As I stated, that it would have been in camp for Franklin. You know, the kid's not. He's being chosen and picked, as I've just stated, with the sparring for his durability and not posing that much of a threat. For Joshua's size and, as I'm stating, his power, he should have been more than confident enough in even in being in 50-50s with that boy. And the chances are, the size difference, the leverage and the distance control, if he was in 50-50s, Josh beats him every day of the week, twice on a Sunday, to the punch, and starts the kid. But he never did, but that's only for him to decide what he's going to do in the gym. Yeah.
Final one, Joe, before I let you go. Next weekend we have a huge fight in America during the night. Tank Ryan Garcia. Who wins? Break it down for me, please.
It's a tough one. I think it's going to be a war. I see a little bit of, with him moving from coach to coach, Ryan Garcia, then away from the sport. He was sort of in a semi-retirement, I'm having a break and coming back. Is he a little bit mentally fragile on the big stage? Is he holding it in? I know he's with Joe Goosen now, who's known since an amateur. I think it's a good move. But I think Tank Davis is just that a little bit more all-rounded for me. You know, from long range distance, a little bit mentally stronger, and, you know, medium and close range inside fighting too. I think Tank's a little bit cuter for me. But, you know, I think Ryan, especially, he's got a beautiful left hook. He really throws it really sharp. Is it difficult to get off against that type of southpaw? He is an upright, he's small, he's compact. You know, we caught Luke Campbell with a long looping left hook to the body. With the small, compact Tank, you know, we can turn us back into that shot and ride the shot a little bit better and come back. So I think he can nullify that left hook of Garcia's. And I just think Tank will be that little bit too cute. But I don't know the size difference, really, because I know Ryan Garcia is a big boy too. That could play a factor. I know Tank, when he's fighting big guys himself, he struggled getting them out of there. You know, struggling imposing his own strength on them. Is he a bit lackadaisy in his diet, or is putting the hours in the gym? I don't know, but it makes it all interesting. But my money is on Tank Davis to come out victorious, definitely.
Right, Joe, we will leave that there now, and I'll leave you to obviously enjoy the rest of your day. I know you've got another session in a matter of a couple of hours' time, so yeah, pleasure as always. Thank you.
Oh, you're a diamond. Thanks, Andy.